Now, the Denver Broncos, they lost 17-16 against the Seattle Seahawks.
We did.
Now, how bad do the Broncos and Russell Wilson look after losing to the Seahawks? Drew, this is for you.
I was waiting. I didn't know if there was another follow-up statement. I'll say this. Russ doesn't look that bad. Russ came into his used-to-be home city, and he played relatively well, if you ask me. What I really look at from this game, a few takeaways from me. The defense in the first half was absolutely abysmal, allowed Geno Smith to be borderline flawless in the first half. But the second half, we came out and we were a different defense. We were basically perfect in the second half. First half offensively, we definitely should have worked on some things. Russ definitely wasn't incorporating the receivers enough, but I was patient with them. I figured, we're seeing the tight ends. We're going to open up the field eventually for our wide receivers. Ended up doing so where we were able to take the top off on Jerry Jeudy. And you know what? I saw you guys tweet about it a little bit. It was underthrown. But the fact that Jeudy was able, that's why I'm wearing the jersey. Shout out to my boy because I never doubted him for 1 second. But his ability to stay composed, catching traffic, take it to the crib, 67 yards. We had definitely some nice plays on offense. Unfortunately, where we lost ourselves the game was on the ground in the red zone at the 1 yard line, two drives in a row. That was the game. That's not on Russ. Javonte has to put it in that second time, and Melvin Gordon has to put it in that first time. That's just the honest truth. I tweeted, why is Javonte Williams? Why don't you guys just rip ass?
No, that was the AC.
No, that's the AC.
I was saying on Twitter, I was like, man, why isn't Javonte getting that goal line work when Melvin Gordon fumbled? The very next drive, Javonte gets the ball and fumbles. You couldn't make it up. I can't blame Russ for this loss. I can blame the running backs, and I can blame Nathaniel Hackett for not being aggressive. That's really my two takeaways. This isn't on Russ. Russ had a great homecoming. Would have been even better if we won the game, but hey, that's not on him.
I'm not overreacting to this. I tweeted, I think, Monday morning, all the wins or losses that moved or didn't move me, and people were going crazy over it because I lost some teams, left some team out. But this would have been a game that didn't move me. I think for Denver, this is just a team who has a new head coach, quarterback, OC, DC. Like, this is a new team who didn't play in the preseason together. And it's their first time on the field. It just happens to be week one. I think we saw that early on with multiple delay of game penalties where they could not get the ball off. And it was mind-numbing to me that Russell Wilson, who knows how loud the stadium gets, know the cadence in there, still was not able to get the offensive play out.
The 12 was really
They were loud.
Today,
and, I think if you look at the game and the box score, I do think Denver played better. You just made the mistakes. You guys lost a turnover battle. You guys had more penalties, but you had twice as many yards. You had more first downs, higher yards per play. So on paper, you guys did the things that normally would win games, higher, more time possession as well. It was just those two fumbles on the 1 yard line. It's not going to happen again where you're going to have two, not guaranteed touchdowns, but at least points on that drive you would hope where you end up fumbling. So I'm not overreacting to it. And I know you took the victory lap in the first 7 minutes of Denver's, their defense, I should say. In the second half, to your credit, they had 0 points and allowed 34 total yards of offense.
To Seattle.
They were lights out in the second half. Sure, it was to Seattle, but in the first half, Geno Smith came out and was guns blazing. He was borderline perfect.
We made some really great adjustments.
I think had one incompletion the entire first half. Hackett shit the bed. Turnovers, Hackett shit the bed. He came back, though, and said that he made the mistake, right? You should have gone for it on fourth down. You have Russell Wilson. It's 4th and 5. Don't take a 64-yard kick. But I'm not worried about Denver. This team is too good. It's too talented. You have one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I'm not overreacting.
Before you go, Riv, you guys are underselling, for one, the importance of what this game meant. There was a lot of underlying factors and storylines that went into this game that were important. Russell Wilson versus Pete Carroll. When's the next time they're going to face off? It's not going to happen. Never. Pete Carroll will always have one up on Russ and say, I beat you after you left. Now, you guys mentioned the Broncos, and I want to briefly just touch on the Seahawks for a little bit. Pete Carroll starting 3 rookie defensive backs. Yes, Jeudy had a fantastic game on rookie Kobe Bryant. Let's pump the brakes. It wasn't no Gabriel Davis type of game. Let's just call it a spade a spade.
He had a better game than Gabriel Davis. He had 4 for 100 and a touchdown. Box
scores don't move me. Film does.
He had an underthrown ball, came back, caught a contested pass, and then outran a defender, scored a touchdown.
The Seahawks started 3 rookie cornerbacks all offseason long. We talked about this team being devoid of talent. You sat up here and said, I would be shocked if they win a game. And then the very first game of the season versus your Denver Broncos, who you've been propping up all off season long, they beat you. Geno Smith has a vintage performance. The reason Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson were at odds is because the philosophies were different. Russell Wilson wanted to throw more. Pete Carroll wanted to be more balanced. In 2019, they started off the season throwing more. Russell Wilson got off to a great start. Then he had a 3-game stretch where he had 10 turnovers, and Pete Carroll said, we have to be more balanced again. And that's where the odds start. That's where they started to be at odds. But Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson's entire time in Seattle vouched for him. He made the bold decision to start him over a quarterback they had just paid in Matt Flynn. He favored Russ over guys in a Legion of Boom. Guys on that team felt at odds because Pete Carroll was giving Russell favorable treatment. Pete Carroll did right by Russ. Russ leaves because he wants the awards. He wants the accolades. He wanted MVP. The reason why Russ was so frustrated with Pete Carroll is because he wanted to win MVP. But Pete Carroll's is about Super Bowl championships. That's what he's about.
So not the fact that he was the most sacked quarterback in that span.
Yeah, that also has a lot to do with it. But if you're the most sacked quarterback, why do you want to drop back at such a high rate when Pete Carroll wants to be more about? But you get sacked more if you do that.
But why don't you get O-linemen to protect him?
Because they gave
Herbert
him.
came into the league, had the worst offensive line. The very next season,
Why was that able to happen, Drew?
Because they had money.
Okay, why did the Seahawks not have money?
Well, because you're paying Russell Wilson.
Exactly. That's why they could not improve the roster.
Did they ever draft an O-lineman when Russ was there?
Ultimately, yeah, they did. Jermaine Ifedi.
And was he solid?
He wasn't good, but they definitely invested into that position. They didn't turn out to be good, but they invested into the position.
Interesting. Let's see.
Russell Wilson started to get annoyed with Seattle because Seattle started to scout quarterbacks. In 2017, they were looking at Mahomes. They said they were going to draft Mahomes had he slipped. In 2018, they went to look at Josh Allen. Russell's camp got furious. And that's what ultimately broke the bridge between the trust in that organization and Russell Wilson.
So Pete Carroll didn't always have his back.
Ultimately, there was a decision that had to be made within that front office. The decision was that it's not likely you win a championship if your quarterback is making top dollar because you need to have a great roster.
Matt Stafford's making top dollar.
And at this current point in time, we have seen that the most successful blueprint is quarterback on a rookie contract and you build around him. The Stafford thing, yes, they definitely won a championship like that. But for the most part, it's a rookie quarterback and you can build around that type of roster. I want to credit Seattle because that was an amazing win.
Definitely.
And I think Geno Smith had an amazing moment. But on to what happened with the Broncos.
Here we go.
The team you picked to win this week.
Who didn't?
Who didn't? The team for the last month that you've been backtracking on all your statements.
Yeah.
Now you're here back making your victory lap.
I've been backtracking on the Broncos?
Slowly but surely. Oh, I'm a Russ guy. Come on. I always liked Russ. Slowly but surely, you've been backtracking on all these statements.
But there's a difference between what I'm saying and what you're saying.
Because now we lose to the Seahawks, which, hey, credit where credit is due. Months ago, absolutely, you were adamant about it. It's not that much better of a situation. If that was the case, hey, I'd be here shaking your hand, absolutely. But slowly but surely, all you've done is backtrack. So here, go ahead. Floor is yours.
Where did I have them finishing in the division? Third.
Making the playoffs.
Making the playoffs as the last seed.
We made the playoffs, though.
As the last seed.
What does that have to do with anything?
Because you're talking about where I have them as a prediction for the year. I'm not up here saying they're missing the playoffs. I'm not saying that at all. But this loss was embarrassing.
So Seattle's making the playoffs.
It was embarrassing. They're not making the playoffs. Seattle, I think they will be maybe a bit better than I expected, but I don't expect them to make this playoff push.
Yeah, you
But
shouldn't.
This was a heartfelt win.
Absolutely.
And they definitely deserve credit.
Oh, no doubt.
And the Broncos deserve to be dismantled, laughed at, and mocked today for such an embarrassing loss.
Wasn't that embarrassing?
You're acting like they got 40 clips.
We are going to be giving away NBA 2K23 Legendary Editions to a couple of you guys, and all you have to do is sign up for Boom Fantasy, deposit $10, which is you're putting in $10 to get a $150 game. On top of that, you play Boom, you can double your money with your deposit. So you can make money
40 times with long
40
shots.
Yeah. So if you want to join in the giveaway, then sign up for Boom. The link is in our bio.
But ensure that you guys make that $10 deposit. That's the only way that you gain entrance into this raffle.
And based on who wins, you guys tell us what version you want, the Legendary one, Dreamers Edition, which console, or you want it for PC. You know, it's up to you. But I think that's a great deal.
Maybe we'll go on live on TikTok for the first time.
And NBA 2K23, I heard it's
great.
I heard it's looking great.
Riv, confirm, deny?
Fire.
That's tough.
Just make sure you use our link, because if you don't use our link, we don't know that's where you're coming from. We don't know you're coming from. Pick a side.
Link in the description.
Link description
Link
or the
in
bio.
description.
Now, listen.
No, I want to ask you this really quick.
Let me go on my spiel first.
You just spoke for 5 minutes straight about the Seahawks. I just want to get this question really quick. So you're going to look at the Broncos as a whole, but not highlight the 2 fumbles on the 1-yard line that easily can be fixed, or Nathaniel Hackett not going for it on 4th. Because if you're going to highlight anything, that has to be the only thing you highlight.
And that's what I'm about to say.
All right, here we go.
Consistent defense, too, also.
For second half, we were amazing. Can't
After
ask for
it's
anything
supposed to be
more.
amazing all game. It's the Seahawks.
I mean, we're on the road. It's the first
They didn't
game.
play in the preseason.
After watching the game, my takeaway was Nathaniel Hackett looked overwhelmed.
I'm not going to disagree at all.
But then I started to think about it. And not only did I come away with that opinion, but everybody wants to rag on Nathaniel Hackett. They want to blame him. But the blame goes on Russell Wilson as well.
It just makes no sense.
It makes perfect sense. And here's why. All offseason long, Russell Wilson has been throwing shots at the Seattle Seahawks and Pete Carroll by saying, I wanted to be in a partnership. I wanted my input to be heard. All offseason long, he's been saying him and Nathaniel Hackett are a partnership. They are buddy-buddy. So if Nathaniel Hackett calls a 4th and 5, he calls out McManus to go hit a field goal. Russell Wilson co-signed that play. He was a part of that decision. It's both their fault. You can't just look at Nathaniel Hackett and be like, oh, he made a terrible call as a coach. Russell Wilson said in a postgame, that was the right call. We have the best kicker in the league. Russell Wilson in that 2-minute drill, he looked like he lacked urgency. There were 4 minutes on the clock, 3 timeouts left. Javonte Williams takes a screen pass for a couple yards on a 3rd and 13 play, 3rd and 14 play, one of those. It's 4th and 5. Russell Wilson doesn't call a timeout. He's looking at Nathaniel Hackett. He's looking all around. He doesn't know what to do. 30 seconds run by on the clock. There are now 20 seconds left on the clock. And now Hackett brings out McManus. Russell Wilson is a part of the clock mismanagement, because if that's Mahomes, if that's Aaron Rodgers, if that's Josh Allen, they call a timeout in that situation. They take command. If that's Peyton Manning, a former Denver Bronco, they take command in that situation.
What they should have done was hurry up to the line.
Now,
That's what they should have done.
When do we ever put the blame on quarterbacks for clock management?
I don't know.
wait, hold on.
When have we done that?
I'm not
Last
gonna agree
year,
with that.
Tom Brady.
Dak Prescott. That's the only one I would say.
Last
with
year,
the slide.
Tom Brady. Remember when he thought it was 3rd down and it was 4th down?
Okay.
That's not clock
It's not
management.
clock management. That's
That
losing track of
is
the down.
game management. That is game management.
Russell Wilson's in the middle of
And
game
that is
driving
still
down the
clock
field.
management.
I don't think the sense of urgency was the issue. If he went up to the line, it's 4th and 5. There's 1:10 seconds left. You have 3 timeouts. If you get that first down, you're on the 35 with a minute left and 2 timeouts. That's perfect.
But the quarterback in that situation is supposed to take control of that situation. A quarterback that just got guaranteed $165 million, that wanted to be in a partnership, that wanted more of a voice offensively.
I don't think
he wanted to be in control.
Russ to be clock managing this game,
And also
bro.
at the same time, listen, I don't agree with the call either. But Russ is trusting Nathaniel Hackett here to say, if McManus hits this field goal, we win the game. Yes, it's a 64-yarder. It was unreasonable to ask McManus to hit that field goal. But ultimately, if I'm Russ, I'm trusting my head coach. This guy kicks his field goal, it's over. McManus is not a scrub.
Russell Wilson co-signed the decision. And that's why he deserves blame in that decision-making. You can't just say it's all on Nathaniel Hackett if Russell Wilson said, yeah, I'm with that. Now, The truth about Russell Wilson, and this is what I've been saying all offseason long.
See, here
What
we
have
go.
you been? I would love to hear this.
You're
I'd love to hear
killing
this.
me.
Let's go.
You're killing me.
Let's go.
The truth about Russell Wilson. You guys ready?
Oh my God.
The truth about Russell Wilson is that he is a soon-to-be 34-year-old quarterback who's 1-3 in his last 4 playoff games. The last win coming 2 years ago against a Josh McCown-led Eagles because Carson Wentz got injured in that game. Russell Wilson was carried to a Super Bowl by the Legion of Boom. In that playoff run, he averaged 174 yards per game and had 3 touchdowns in 3 games. He was carried to that Super Bowl. And in 2014, when they went to the Super Bowl again, he was horrible. He threw 6 touchdowns, 5 picks, and threw the interception that lost the Seahawks the game at the goal line to Malcolm Butler. Not to mention, every single offensive coordinator that he's been with has gotten fired. Usually when you're with a great quarterback and you're an OC, you get a job. Kyle Shanahan with Matt Ryan, MVP season, he got a job. Mahomes, Bieniemy, his name has been in head coaching circles for a long time.
You think that's Russell Wilson's fault, who has been a consensus top 5 quarterback outside of last year?
Now. Kevin O'Connell.
See, but you're talking.
no,
that's
Kevin-
not
Kevin-
hitting.
Kevin-
It's not
Kevin-
hitting.
Nonsense.
Kevin O'Connell.
It's not hitting.
Nonsense.
Kevin O'Connell with the Rams. Stafford gets a job, Minnesota. Every single one of Russell Wilson's OCs has gotten fired.
How many OCs
And
did
listen,
Stafford get hired? How many OCs did Stafford get hired?
He was always in a bad situation in Detroit.
Okay.
Seattle's not a bad
All right, bro.
situation.
It's gotten
They
to
won a
that point where
Super
they
Bowl.
were. Yes.
Shouldn't that
because
tell
they-
you more about the coaches than Russell Wilson, who's been a consensus top 5 guy, and you're saying he never got an OC a job? Who the fuck cares?
Now listen to this.
Yeah, what are you
they
saying?
haven't had
exactly?
great OCs. They had Brian Schottenheimer for years.
Russell Wilson's best 3-year stretch came with Brian Schottenheimer. And now, here's where I notice Russell Wilson is more than meets the eye. His best 3-year stretch came with Brian Schottenheimer. When Schottenheimer was fired in 2020, Russ was asked in a press conference about it, and he said that was Pete Carroll's decision.
He clearly wasn't happy.
But behind the scenes, Russell Wilson pushed hard for him to get fired, yet blamed it in the public eye on Pete Carroll.
For all we know, Pete could have told him to do that.
The fact that Pete Carroll was able to win this game against Russell Wilson in his return in Denver was an all-time embarrassing moment.
No,
it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing.
This shows how great Russell Wilson is.
After everything Russell Wilson
really
has
does.
done to tear down his relationship with Pete Carroll, former teammates in Legion of Boom, Richard Sherman's throwing victory laps right now over Russell Wilson's demise.
But they've never liked each
His
other.
teammates during those runs didn't even like Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson, towards the back end of the Seattle days, became a me guy. I want to win MVP. I want to build my legacy. I want to do this. Pete Carroll was about the team. Tom Brady doesn't go around and say, I want to be MVP. He says, I want to win a Super Bowl. Russell Wilson cares about his own legacy, his own accolades, his own individual success. And all offseason long, I've been saying about the Broncos,
Matthew Stafford leaves the Lions, and you don't hear a lick of this.
this team, the Broncos, were overhyped. New OC, new head coach, new DC, new special teams coordinator. I've heard from you all offseason, Drew. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Oh, the defense, even without Vic Fangio, will be fine.
Our offense looked fine yesterday. We fumbled on the 1-yard line twice.
You're overreacting like fuck, bro.
You're talking
overreacting
nuts.
Crazy.
Like
you sound crazy.
we went out there and scored 0 points. Like we didn't move the ball at all.
You scored 16 against the Seattle Seahawks.
We fumbled twice on the 1-yard line.
That's
What
crazy.
type? And the play calls on those plays.
It's a
were
handoff
dumb.
to Melvin Gordon.
In shotgun at the 1-yard line. A shotgun handoff. A handoff in shotgun. You're not even running. It's not even a single back formation. At the goal line, it's a shotgun carry.
I don't hate it.
Nathaniel Hackett, listen, he looked overwhelmed and he was out coached. And that is a big concern going forward because in the NBA,
in the first half, the Seahawks came to play, no doubt. In the second half, they did nothing.
in the NBA, maybe you can get away with not having a great coach. Even now, we're looking at with the Nets. They can't even get away with it, and they're super talented. In the NFL, if you don't have a great coach, you're not going to win. The Broncos right now, yeah, I would be concerned because Nathaniel Hackett, I'm not trusting him to be a great head coach. What are his credentials outside of being the OC for Aaron Rodgers and coaching the Jaguars of Blake Bortles? He has none. Every coach is this their first time doing the job. And your talent on paper doesn't stack up with the top teams in the AFC. And not to mention the defense. I told you the linebackers were mid. Tight ends caught eight catches for 102 yards against your tight ends.
What do you mean? It's not you told me. We all knew it collectively.
Yeah, Will Disley also had a broken 50-yard touchdown. It was half the yards.
All of those things are working against Denver. And not to mention Russell Wilson hasn't been a winner in the playoffs since the Legion of Boom days. You love to rag on Aaron Rodgers about his playoff miscues. What about Russell Wilson?
I've been very vocal about it as well, and even still, his teams.
He knows his issue. He always brings up shit from 10 years ago. Matt Ryan MVP, Russell Wilson in 2014.
Be fair, Russell's teams have been that good.
We know Russ is a much better quarterback today than he was in 2014.
What did Russell Wilson do his last playoff appearance?
He wasn't great.
He was ass.
He wasn't great.
He was ass.
And Russell.
Okay, so
and
if
Rodgers,
next week when they play Houston. First of all, Russ put up fucking 350 yards, 70% completion, touchdown, no turnovers. He looked great.
And we had some drops in the end zone.
They had some drops, and also they weren't as aggressive as I want. Javonte had 11 catches.
I agree.
But Javonte is probably their best offensive weapon as a whole.
I don't disagree.
Russ looked phenomenal. I don't know how you could take away from this game and be like, I don't know, man. Russ struggled in the playoffs 2 years ago. Okay, I don't give a fuck.
That's not my takeaway from the game.
Your takeaway is Nathaniel Hackett.
No,
really?
His takeaway is that he's blaming Russell Wilson as much as we're going to blame Nathaniel Hackett.
My takeaway is, for one, Denver's coaches are overwhelmed. I'm not buying it on the coaches.
But can
I haven't bought it on this roster all off season long. This isn't new.
This is week 1 Monday Night Football. This is Pete Carroll's Super Bowl. Week 1 against Denver, against his old quarterback. He's been hyping up this coaching staff and this team the entire offseason for this moment. They went out, they played well, they did their thing.
And Russell Wilson hasn't been marking this on his calendar?
Of course he has.
Did Russell Wilson not come into this game with a chip on his shoulder and
course
want
he
to show
has.
up Pete Carroll?
Of course he has.
And ultimately, Pete Carroll won the matchup.
Okay, if next week, if they go out and fucking 30 clip Houston, are you going to come back here and be like, Hackett's a great coach, Russell Wilson can be MVP? Because you can't overreact one way and not overreact the other just to fit your fucking agenda.